Okay, good evening. I want to first of all want to thank Pastor Robert for inviting me to share on this seminar on life stages, elder care, and I trust that we will learn from each other during these two sessions, this today and next Friday. Let's learn from each other during at the end of the let's say 10 about 15 minutes before the end of the session. There will be a Q&A session, Q&A time, and also this can be a sharing time, right? Those of you who have experiences that you would like to share with us, please do so, kindly, so that we can learn from each other. Now, elder care is a very important topic today because we are living in an aging society, right? And in fact, in an aging world, right? So, yeah. Now, as with any mechanical equipment, right? Uh, whether it's a food blender that you use in your kitchen or the car that you are driving, all these mechanical gadgets will go through wear and tear, right? And so too with our body, our human body, that is fearfully and wonderfully made. The more we study about our body, how God has designed it. Wow, I tell you, the more we will be amazed at the intricacy of the design. Indeed, our God is a master designer. Is the way that He has designed this human body is just fantastic, right? But nevertheless, the human body, will also experience aging, right? And aging is basically a gradual, continuous process of natural changes, okay? And in fact, it begins in early adulthood. Uh, Early adulthood. And by middle adulthood, many bodily functions actually begin to gradually decline. All right? Okay? So, uh, but bear in mind that old age is not a disease. It's not a disease, it is just a normal and inevitable, it's just a biological phenomena, right? The body going through changes. Okay, let's look at some demographics, right? Uh, in the year 1954, that was before Malaysia was formed, the population of Malaya together with Sabah and Sarawak was 7.4 million. All right. And the number of people above 60 years of age then was 350,000, which means about 4.6% in this aging population. Now today, 2020, our Malaysian population is around 33.4 million. And guess what? The number of people above the age of 60 is 3.3 million. All right. And which makes up a percentage of that. That means 9.8% today. So there is a higher proportion of of people above the age of 60, and this sort of ties in with with the global scenario. Globally, about 1 in 10 people are over 60 years of age. Right, and that means in the world today, there are 770 million people above 60 years of age. So yeah, so you and I, we are senior citizens. We are in that age group. There we are not by ourselves. Right, there's a big population, 770 million people in this world, in this age group. All right. So when we say old age, generally it begins at the age of 60, right? At the age of 60, and people in this age group are called what? Senior citizens, right? We are senior citizens. I understand that most of us who are, most of the participants would be, in this age group, or perhaps some of you are the younger ones. You are caregivers to your mother, your parents, your grandparents, who are in this age group. All right. So so when we are the moment we are labeled senior citizens, we have special privileges, right? You go to the cinema, you get special discounts. And many restaurants. In fact, I only go to those restaurant buffet where that offers about the 50% discount, right? So it is so much cheaper than what the other those younger people have to pay. All right. So and bear in mind that we are really a privileged group, because statistics tell us that 8% of the population, 8% of the people of this world live more than 65 years of age. So we are very privileged, we are very blessed to be in this age group, right? To reach, over 60 and so on. Okay. So according to the World Health Organization, there are almost 770 million people over the age of 60 living in the world today. And it is expected that by 2050, this number will be almost 2 billion. That's huge, isn't it? 2 billion. And the number of elderly will be higher than the number of children, right? By then. Okay, so let's talk about aging types. When we talk about aging, we have to. There are three, maybe we can say dimensions. The first one is whenever we talk of aging, right? We're talking about chronological age, right? The person's number of years lived, right? But there is also the biological age. That means the age by body function, right? Referring to the changes in the body as people age. So in other words, a person can be chronologically 35, but biologically he's 50 because he has not been taking care of himself. He's been smoking, and drinking, and maybe even indulge in drugs and so on, right? So there's so much abuse, and therefore biologically he can be age 50 when chronologically age 35. All right. Then there is also what is called the psychological age, and this is based on how people act and feel. All right. For example, an 80-year-old person who works, who do planning, who is looking forward to future events, who participates in many activities, is considered psychologically young, right? Yeah, and I'm sure we can think of our Dr. Mahathir at 94 years old. He's psychologically, he's probably less than 60 years old, right? Because the way that his mind is so active and so agile and still so sharp. You see? So you have chronological age, but biological age, depending on how you look after your body, right? And psychological age comes in. Okay, so today we are talking about a life stage, and I want to talk a little bit about this lifespan development. And this guy, Eric Erickson, is a psychologist who developed a very popular and influential theory on lifespan development, right? And he says that our personality, all of us have very different personalities, right? And he says our personality develop, is developed in a series of stages, right? And those of you who are counselors or some of you are caregivers, we need to understand some of the dynamics, right? The challenges that people are going through at different stages of their lives, right? So we have to really think about the challenges that the elderly is going through. All right, understand what they are struggling with. All right, and so Erickson says that all our experiences from childhood to adulthood to our elderly years, all these experiences will shape our personality. Now that's his view. Okay, all right, and to some degree it is correct, right? So yeah, so very briefly, right? What are these 8 stages of human development that he expounds? And it starts with stage 1, the newborn, going to stage 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and stage 8. Right? And when we talk about elderly, the elderly folks, we are in stage 8, right? And in each state he has he has a label for it, right? And so basically he divides this lifespan to 8 stages, and this plays a very important role in individual's development, right? Okay, so as I said, personality, Erickson says, develops in the series of stages. Okay, so now let's take a look at the stage that the elderly is going through, right? And he calls it ego integrity versus despair. Okay, what does he mean by that? Right? And this refers to those who are age 65 and above, all right, until the end of life, right? So he's saying that at this phase of life, right, we are looking back, reflecting, looking back into our life, right? And as we look back and feel, and then we will be asking ourselves, have we been productive? Have we lived a productive life? Or have we lived an unproductive life, basically, right? Are we, yeah. So integrity refers to the fact that, if we have lived a fruitful, productive life, then we have built self-respect, right? We have developed, this is developed when people have lived richly and responsibly, and there's the feeling of wisdom and meaningfulness, right? But on the other side of the scale, there are those who look back and in despair, right? Because they look back into their lives and there's so much regret. All right, they experience heartaches and remorse. There's such a feeling of regret and bitterness. It's very, very sad, isn't it? Right? So it's either, at this point in life, we look back with satisfaction, with what we have accomplished, what we have achieved, what we have made out of our lives, or despair. Look back with anger, with frustration, with bitterness. That can also happen. All right. But so he for each stage there's a basic strength, and the basic strength at this stage is wisdom. Wisdom. You have accumulated a lot of wisdom. Okay, so basically, he's saying that when at this phase of our lives, we ask the big question: is it okay to have been me? And the key event is, we are reflecting on and the acceptance of one's life. Did I live well? Are there few regrets and a general feeling of satisfaction? Or do we feel proud of our accomplishments, a sense of fulfillment from a life well lived, or a sense of regrets, despair over a life wasted. I should have done this. I should have done that, but I did not. Okay, so okay, the next thing I want to talk about is healthy aging. Right, healthy aging. Now, is there such a thing as healthy aging or successful aging? Right, we would say that Dr. M has is living a life of active, healthy, and successful aging, isn't it? Right, in the state that he's in, doing what he wants to do. Right. So the greatest challenge facing us as we age is the prevention of physical disability, right? We don't want to be bedridden. We don't want to suffer from some paralysis and so on, right? So the basic challenge is all the extension. All of us we hope and long for an extension of active life expectancy, right? So that if by I know of friends at 80 plus, still playing badminton, still playing tennis, still going jogging, right? So you see, this active life expectancy, and fortunately, recent studies suggest that healthy aging is achievable. It can be a reality. We can achieve that with sound planning for old age. It means those of you who are young, who are attending this webinar, you're young. You can actually plan for it. For having good planning, wise planning, your aging and a healthy aging is achievable, right? And thanks to medical advances, we are living longer lives than ever in this era, right? However, having said that, longer life and a higher quality of life don't necessarily go hand in hand. Yeah. Okay. So later on, we are going to talk about in fact next week about the factors that affect how we age. All right. So healthy aging refers to the postponement or reduction of undesirable effects of aging. All right. And so the goal really is to how we can maintain physical and mental well-being, how we can avoid chronic diseases, disorders, dementia, and how we can be active and independent. Is it possible? Is it possible? Yeah. Now you look at this lady. She runs. Her 16th marathon. I think this was last year or the year before, right? Her name is Bidart from France, right? She's 83 years old, right? And she will be the oldest woman in the field, right? She was this event took place some time ago, right? So you see, at 83 is still very active and healthy. Yeah. So do you know that one of the most important measure of how civilized we are is how we treat our elderly? Yeah? Yeah, how we treat our elderly. So I think we better take a good hard look at ourselves, how our attitude towards the elderly, right? Okay, and this guy, Sir James Sterling Ross said, you do not heal old age because it is not a disease. You protect it, you promote it, and you extend it. All right. Now, how society view the elderly have consequences. You realize that? Have consequences. How the government, how the society, all right, have consequences. Right. Now, if a certain society puts a negative label on the elderly, these people are useless, they are so incompetent, they are helpless, they cannot contribute, they are a burden, right? We put such a label, right? So naturally, if the government sees the city councils views the elderly, put such a label on them, then they do not see the importance of providing support services and funds for the elderly. Okay, so when society does that, when that's the attitude, then the elderly skills deteriorate. They are just put aside, right? And neglected, and the elderly themselves they will label themselves as incompetent. Okay, but let's see what happens. Huh? How, how does society? When society puts a positive label on the elderly, oh, these are valuable personalities, they are valuable people, they are helpers, they have lived their life, they are competent, they have, so much experience in their expertise, they are wise people, right? When we put this type of positive label, then society will provide support systems for the elderly. They will factor into urban development planning. They will factor the elderly. They will consider the elderly and cater to their needs. All right, when they plan, make provision for housing, health services, nutrition, social services, and so on. Right, and when the elderly receives this sort of support, then their skills will improve even further, right? And they will label themselves as, they'll see themselves as competent. You see, so it's so very, very important, It's therefore so important that we need to promote public awareness about the special needs and problems of the elderly, right? And so it's so good that the National Association of Christian Counselors and now Subang Methodist Church, is organizing this sort of webinars to promote public awareness about the elderly, their needs, their whatever struggles they're going through, and also the risk factors for abuse. These are very important areas of consideration. Okay, so whether you are a senior citizen, all of you, your participants here, or your caregivers to your grandparents, your aged parents, grandparents, well, in this workshop, we hope to understand, right? We're trying to understand the challenges that the elderly have to face, as well as the challenges that you will face working with the elderly. It is challenging to serve and work with the elderly. A very noble calling, but nevertheless, there are a lot of challenges that go with it. All right. So you see coping with change is very difficult, right? And at whatever age you are, and particularly it's very challenging for older adults, right? Just because they face so many just so many changes in transition, right, taking place in their lives. The children are moving away, the loss of their own parents by the time they are 70, 60, 70, they have lost their parents, and friends and other loved ones have passed on, and then their own declining health. All right, so they are facing the realities of loss, right? But if that sense of loss can be balanced with positive ingredients, then you will have a formula for staying healthy as you age. Okay, so you see, just it's so important to understand the challenges that faced by people as they age, right? Chronic health problems, sensory impediments, vision and hearing impediments, impairments, all these is happening, so common among folks over the age of 70, right? So many major physiological changes, all right, in every system, not just hearing and losing teeth, but their digestive system, starts to also, become sensitive, the hearts, the cardiovascular system, also, there'll be changes and there'll be, some problems arising, respiratory system, and, every system virtually, and of course, there's change, their muscles, their skeletal tissues also are weakening. All right, so there are so many physiological changes that they have to cope with. The elderly, it's not easy, right? Okay, so I just quickly just show you the distribution of diseases in the elderly. On the top of the list is cataract and visual impairment. 70% of diseases are in this category, right? And then the hearts, cardiovascular hearts problems, hypertension, 48%, and psychiatric problems, it ranks number 3, 42%. All right, and then you've got arthritis and respiratory disease and so on and so forth. Okay, so as a psychologist, my area of concern, of course, is the psychological well-being of elderly people. It's so important, right? Because as you can see, psychiatric problems ranks number 3 in the distribution of diseases among the elderly. And so as caregivers, we need to be very sensitive to the psychological well-being, because the elderly are so vulnerable, they are so weak, they're so vulnerable, right? They're, some of them may be going through grief and loneliness, significant life changes, and even certain medications have side effects and can directly alter their mental states, right? The mental emotional states. That's part of the side effects. All right. So according to the World Health Organization, over 15%, over 15% of adults over the age of 60 suffer from a mental disorder. Now, so this is very significant. So therefore, we have to be very sensitive to the vulnerability of the elderly in this area. And therefore, we need to it's important that we are sensitive to them. We are quick to pick up the indicators of a mental health issue that if there is one that arises. Okay, so now, so what are some of the common warning signs that we need to look for in our elderly? Marked change, in appetite. Suddenly, in the last 2 weeks, no appetite, used to enjoy food, but this change, right? The energy level also, looking very lethargic, very, low energy. Their mood also has gone down. Now, this is a very powerful indicator, right? Mood changes, feeling emotionally flat, right? They used to, this old uncle used to smile, right? Used to be very expressive, with his facial expressions, but now hardly any expression, emotionally flat. Hey, is something going on, And then the sleep, or sleeping so much now, or else difficulty sleeping, that can be also a problem, right? And then persistent thoughts of hopelessness. When they talk to you, you can sense that, wow, the theme of hopelessness. I'm so useless. There's no hope. There's no future. Sad. There's and suicidal thoughts. Suicidal thoughts. I was trying to help this elderly person, a very wealthy man, and went to his house, and he was suffering from depression, just depression. He found his life meaningless. Used to be a very successful businessman, but of course now he has retired, right? And guess what? I saw he's a very intellectual guy, by the way, and I saw that he's been reading books on euthanasia, yeah, assisted killing, it's as if he's contemplating how to go through this do tennis is illegal here, of course, right? But the fact that he's reading all these books, caused a lot of concern to me, all right? And then some of the elderly start, going for drugs and, alcohol, and, these are significant indicators of feeling on edge. They get restless, agitated, or suddenly you detect that, this elderly person is feeling stressed, what is so worried about, why stressed, or, short-term recent memory loss, but that could be part of dementia, okay, but anger, he suddenly became so aggressive, or obsessed with a certain theme, obsessive, compulsive behavior, right? Okay, so so depression, the most common mental disorder among seniors is depression, right? And about 7% of the elderly population gets actually some form of depression, right? So it's not surprising. Okay, so now how do older adults experience depression? So if you are a caregiver to an elderly adult, how do they tell it to you? No, they're not going to come outright and tell you, oh, I'm depressed, no, you won't, they're not willing to talk about their feelings, right? And then sometimes it's because of their medical conditions, right? Heart disease, stroke, and so on, cancer, and this can cause depressive symptoms, all right? And as I said, medications with side effects that contribute to depression. All right. So if you sense that your elderly loved one is going through depression, perhaps and you might want to, and taking a lot of medication, you might want to check with your doctor or pharmacist. Is it possible that these medications are causing some side effects? Yeah. If it is, they might want to switch to something that has less of these side effects. Okay, so some symptoms of depression, okay, is basically you watch for deterioration in her mood, right? Okay, the most prominent symptoms actually social withdrawal. Suddenly, they don't want to meet people, withdrawing, and then loss of appetite, and then loss of interest in something that they used to enjoy. All these are very, very significant symptoms that the older adults may be going through depression. All right, and then sometimes it is delusions. They start to have delusions. Delusions are false beliefs about something. Something that is not true, but they think it is true. All right. Okay, we're going to go deep more into that later. Right. And then many older folks may go through experience something called a syndromal depression. Now, this is a mild form of depression, right? It's not doesn't have full-blown symptoms. They feel less pleasure or interest in activities as things that they were interested before. They have low mood, right? And to the point that they cannot carry out their day-to-day function. And they give when they talk to you, there are hints that life is not living, they feel hopeless, a sense of sadness, energy is down, there's such a sense of loss, a sense of a loss of the sense of purpose. Okay, all sorts of losses experienced as we age, isn't it? Right? You start asking questions: what value am I? What is my worth now? My children have moved away, right? I recently I visited this guy. He's coming to 90 years old and lost his wife last year. The wife was I think like 94 when she passed on, right? And they have had 64 years of good marriage. blessed with such 64 years of good marriage, and now she's gone. Each time I drop in to see him, he's teary-eyed. It's a year now, and he's still teary-eyed. He just, misses her, and then now he's living by himself, in fact, because the children are in overseas, right? So fortunately, he has a lot of church people, church friends who visit him. But that guy is, he's going through maybe even more than some syndromal depression. Sometimes you feel that, you could be going through some major depression. All right, but these things happen, right? So we have to be very sensitive to our elderly folks, their emotional states. All right, see, especially this guy is feeling terribly lonely. He's living by staying by himself, okay, and going through a grieving process. Okay, another common disorder in later life is anxiety. Okay? Anxiety, very common. About 6% of the elderly men and 11% of elderly women in the US experience at least one of the anxiety disorders. Right? See, especially when you lose the ability to move around, those who are, who are, who are more confined to bed or to a wheelchair, they lose the ability to move around, and the loss of bodily functions. They need help. When they need help to take a bath, to get out of bed, then they constantly worry about the consequences. What the consequences might be in the long run. Okay, yeah. So yeah. So later on when it's a time for sharing, those of you who have experience looking after the elderly, or if you are an elderly person, and you have experienced some of these things that we are talking about, please feel free to share with us how you cope with anxiety, how you cope with depression, or caregivers give your perspective, all right, so that we can learn from one another. Okay, and so another mental disorder that the elderly go through is cognitive deficits. By this we mean that the elderly struggle with their cognitive health. Cognitive health is focused on the person's ability to think, to learn, to remember. All right, and so with age, certain functions begin to slow down, isn't it? Yeah, and so most common, the most common cognitive health issue of the elderly is dementia. Okay, forget where you place your keys or your spectacles. Yeah, okay, and but you see, so we all of us, we forget. I forget all the time, where I put my keys, my spectacles, and so on. Right, but when it becomes a functional problem, when I start to forget my keys on a daily basis, every day, or even morning, I left my keys somewhere, in the afternoon I cannot recall where I placed it, then yeah, then we have to start thinking, we have to start wondering whether we should really, is dementia setting in, all right, and there's difficulty storing new information. That's what dementia is, right? A disorder where there's difficulties of storing new information, right? And so yeah, and the result is the loss of these cognitive functions, language, speech disturbances, right? Okay, and it's around now. This is a very common disorder. 47.5 million people worldwide have dementia, right? So this is really common, right? And the most common form of dementia is Alzheimer's disease, right? Okay, as many as 5 million people over the age of 65 suffers from Alzheimer's disease in the US. Okay, All right, so memory dysfunction and perception. Sometimes, because of these cognitive deficits, they start to entertain delusions, start believing in things that are not true, right? Okay, and some of them even get hear voices. That's auditory hallucination or visual hallucination. When we start seeing things that are not there. All right. Okay. Oh, it's more than 9:15 already. I think I have to. Okay, maybe I finish this slide. Okay. So okay. This is a diagram given by the New York University Medical Center, right? So they say that there are the 8 stages. The 7th stage. Seven stages of dementia, of Alzheimer's disease. All right, first stage, second stage, it's all there. Right. First stage is normal, no symptoms yet. Then the awareness that there's some functional decline. Right. Third stage is early Alzheimer's functions at about 12 years of age. This point is only the function like a 12-year-old, right? And then fourth stage is worse, mild symptoms, require assistance. Fifth stage needs help getting dressed, function as a 5 to 7-year-old person, right? And then the sixth stage is worse, needs 24-hour care, right? And seventh stage, they are totally they function at the level of a newborn, right? Really, they don't even know who their loved ones are. Okay. So let me see. Yeah. Okay. Let me finish this. Symptoms of the Alzheimer. Actually scientists don't exactly fully understand, but they see that there is a shrinkage. The shrinkage of the brain. They call it the atrophy. Shrinking of certain parts of the brain. You see the normal brain, that is, it shrinks to this. You see, damage, to the blood vessels and so on. Okay, so yeah, maybe okay, maybe we take a 5 minute break lah. Okay, can I continue? All right. Okay, okay, the next mental disorder that we also want to just touch on very briefly is delusional disorder. Okay, and this is where a person cannot tell what is real. I'm sure you've come across some of the in the 80s or 90s, right? They cannot tell what is real and what is imagined. All right, they have a strong beliefs, in something that is so untrue, right? But to them it's so true, right? That sometimes it's they believe that they are being followed, or somebody is trying to poison them, or they're being deceived, that somebody conspiring against them, huh? Huh? Or sometimes it's love from a distance, okay, and or sometimes it's believing that they may have a little common tooth headache, right? But then they think that I'm having brain tumor, brain tumor, so these are the delusions, right? That they can, under delusional disorder. As I said, sometimes they can also feel that the love from a distance, somebody, some actress is in love with them or what. We had a patient, right? A patient, a 75-year-old man, right? He accused his 75-year-old wife of having an affair with a neighbor who is in the 20s. See? That's what a delusional disorder is. Okay, so if this happens, you encounter this, I realize that this is what is going on. Right? Okay, might need some psychiatric help, medication, or so on. All right. So yeah, delusions that they have been people are against them. The persecutory delusion. Somebody's they are out there. This patient who said that the people upstairs. She says in her apartment, right? The people upstairs have poisoned my husband, and now they are pumping poison gas into my, my house. Wow, so things like that, right? So this, yeah. Okay, another thing, a senior citizen may feel fearful and nervous, especially if she lives alone or has mobility problems, right? So loneliness is one of the major feelings that an elderly person experience. Yeah, because with advancing age, the friend circles become progressively smaller, right? The children have grown up, they've moved away, right? And they need to emotionally bond with someone, huh? Or someone to fulfill their emotional craving, isn't it? Yeah. So to know that there is someone who is going to be by their side if anything goes wrong, this is very important for the elderly. All right, very important. Right. So if you are a caregiver, you have to really think about satisfying this emotional craving of the elderly. A geriatric caregiver is a shoulder to cry on, a friend in need. Okay, yeah, and you are there to assure them that you're not alone, right? You are not alone. Okay, uh, this our society, our country is going through rapid, industrialization, right? It's good, also not so good, right? Going through urbanization, right? Because this leads to social change, right? And it weakens the social and family support, right? So, and the elderly is not given the same respect, attention, and care, right? And so it leads to declining mental health. It leads to the isolation of the elderly from family, from social life, because the children are so busy. They are you know thousands of miles away. You see, it's hard for them to. They have their busy schedule and their demanding jobs, and you see, this is a setback for the elderly. So we really have to do something, to cater to this. All right, so it's so important that we have to give to the elderly the emotional support that they so long for. Huh? And how does this emotional support look like? Right? It's important, right? Because good mental and emotional health and wellness is at the core of the quality of life. You cannot run away from that. If you do not have good mental health, it doesn't matter how you are treated. For your medical problems. Wow, you go to the best medical center, the most expensive, or even go to Singapore. You know, you know. But if you do not have good mental health, then the quality of life will suffer. As I said, this guy that so rich, he's got wealthy, yeah, but because he doesn't have mental health, he keep telling me that life is meaningless. Huh? He's just drifting from day to day, and he wish he could cut it short. Huh? Yeah. So emotional support, think in terms, it's not how much, the luxury that we give them, things and all that, put them the best old folks home, but the most important is still mental, emotional support. Okay, so as caregivers and we who are attending to the elderly, let's listen to their cry, their cry of hopelessness, their cry of helplessness. Huh? Does anyone care? Yeah, we have to listen to them, right? Huh? Mother Teresa said, being unwanted, unloved, uncared for, forgotten by everybody. I think that is a much greater hunger, a much greater poverty than the person who has nothing to eat. Yeah, how true that is. Huh? 1 million older people in the UK haven't spoken to anyone for a month. Isn't that sad? Isn't that sad? Yeah. So we need to see that, be sensitive to the fact that the elderly, there is this insecurity, and emotional void. That how are we going to meet them at their point of need? How are we going to empathize with them? Huh? Yeah. Now I'm, sort of trying to help this elderly lady. She, husband and wife are both elderly, in the 70s. And I tell you, the woman is so insecure that she clings on to that poor husband. He's got to be by her side virtually 24 hours a day. I mean, all the time, when he goes and does his, do some marketing and all that, she'll be calling him up, every now and then. All right. So you see, we have to meet this emotional void. Okay. And especially, the older folks who have problems with mobility, worse, they feel so helpless. Yeah. So feeling secure is so important. Now I'm going to show you very short video clip about, and this was an experiment conducted by a researcher, right? And it shows us that from birth, right from birth, a child longs for connection, right? Longs for connection. Is it okay now?
Yep. Good.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the emotions and the reactivity and the interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 30, 40 years ago, when people didn't think that infants could engage in social interaction. In the still face experiment, what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby, who's about a year of age.
I'm like a girl. Oh.
And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her.
Yeah.
This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this. And then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening here?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, "Come on, why aren't we doing this?" Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it. They actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
Okay. I'm here. And what are you doing? Oh, yes. Oh, what a big girl.
It's a little like the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is that normal stuff that goes on, that we all do with our kids. The bad is when something bad happens, but the infant can overcome it. After all, when you stop the still face, the mother and the baby start to play again. The ugly is when you don't give the child any chance to get back to the good. There's no reparation, and they're stuck in that really ugly situation.
Never mind, we can still, but you can hear me, right? We can still talk, huh? We can just have a short Q&A or sharing, please. Those of you who have encountered, situations that we have talked about, perhaps, you want to share with us, your elderly coping with depression, anxiety, and whatever, conditions, please feel free to share with us, okay? Anyone?
Okay. I'm going to say hello to you and ask a question.
Just a guideline, for those of us who want to post or make comments, you just identify yourself, and then the question, and I think Dr. Eddie will be happy to answer your questions, right? Or even you have your own struggles as well, yeah?
Yes.
Just identify yourself.
Share with us. Create a video.
Okay, well, the rest, can you hear me, Dr. Eddie?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, maybe I start the ball rolling, some comments, and along the way. I also my own experience as well.
Okay.
Some years ago, maybe about, I would say anything between 8 to 10 years ago, I have this, how to say, on my wife's side, the grandfather, my wife's side grandfather, when we used to visit him in Penang, and then suddenly he was like a bit unfriendly, and then he like kind of growled at me, and then I did not say anything. I did not do anything, So I was very puzzled. Why this grandfather like starting to make like fierce faces at me and that kind of situation. So I couldn't understand his actions, but I didn't do anything in response because I was thinking what happened to him and so on. And then along the way, sometime later and so on, I also discovered that he started to accuse his own daughter, that's my wife's mother, of stealing his money and that kind of thing. So it's become like just now what you mentioned. So at that time, we are kind of puzzled because we didn't know what was happening to a relative doing this kind of thing. And then slowly, with some knowledge about the person maybe having this, like you say, Alzheimer or dementia issue, so on, medically problem, then we begin to understand the person better. So from my experience, that knowledge helps. Knowledge helps to understand a person better.
Yes, yes, certainly.
Because initially, last time we didn't know, so with that puzzle, what to do, how to react, and so on. And sometimes I can be very annoyed. I mean, just like
Yes,
my
yes.
mother-in-law, yeah, being accused by the father of stealing money and and giving you all the care and love, and then you say this kind of thing to me, that kind of situation, right? Then it gets very upset. It's like, you take care of yourself, lah. That kind of
Yes,
thing.
yes.
Doing the best for you, and then you're accusing me and so on, and then
Right, right, right.
so having the appropriate knowledge, I think, helps a lot. So tonight I find that
Yes.
what you have been sharing with us, certain issues about loneliness, about the depression disorder, and many other issues that elderly face. I think that is to me, it opens up my mind to how to say understand better, and then I think what you mentioned also, to know how to treat or to communicate better to elderly people instead of feeling irritated or worse
Yes,
still, treating them badly. Yeah.
yes. Right.
So I took my experience, that personal experience, that knowledge helps, and your added knowledge sharing also further helps me lah in this regard. Yeah.
Right, right.
Thanks so much for sharing.
Mm, mm. Yes, what we need to do is actually basically empathy. We always use the word, teach the medical students to empathize with the patients. That means we try to step into their world. We try to understand, this, even those with dementia and all, they get agitated. They get aggressive. Even they can be very aggressive, right? Because they believe that maybe you are against them, you are an enemy, you're coming to get to arrest them or what. So we have to step, especially those who are anxious and having anxiety and depression. We really have to step into their world and just show them that we understand. We try to put ourselves in their shoes. We may not agree with them, right, with their delusions, right, but we can still show them that we understand, we care for them. But we want to be connected with them. That's why the short video clip is actually to show that all of us, from baby, you see the baby needs interaction, wants engagement, wants a connection with the mother. And when she senses that the mother is not showing any response, that's when she got really agitated and even distressed, crying, until the mother responded again. So how much more, from all of us, we are created for connection. I think it's, whatever stage of life we are going through, we need connection, right? And how much more the elderly, who are so, lonely and so, void of purpose and meaning in life, and just, all by themselves. They long for this connection. So end of the day, we have to try our level best to connect with them, to show them that that we are there for them. A lot of times it's just a listening ear, a shoulder for them to cry on, and let them ventilate. Just be a good listener. We don't have to be to know all the therapeutic methods, but the best is how can we forge this rapport with them, this empathy, this rapport. Very, very. If we can do that, we have done a lot for them. In other words, the heart is the state of our heart. If we are, we care, we love them, and we will just be such a blessing to them. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. We have still some time for one or two questions. Anybody has any issues? Well, if there are still none, then I'll just perhaps continue with one other. Just make a comment about what Dr. Eddie mentioned to us just now. I what you mentioned about that couple who married for a long time.
Yes, yes.
For 65, they're married, right?
Oh, yeah. Can you see?
Once again, he's here.
And that husband lost his wife after that,
Mm-hmm.
and he stayed by himself, and he missed his wife very dearly because they had been married for so long. Yeah. But what encouraged me from your story of that friend is that that you mentioned that there were still church friends who visited that elderly man.
That's right.
Yeah. So it just points to me how important it is that like you say, the younger people can also prepare themselves for old age if God gives us that length of days or years, right? To establish that community of spiritual friends that will last for a long time.
Yes.
And how important that is, that when we grow old, that we are built for community and we are there for one another, right? And so that elderly man has got church friends still, even though the children may be far away, no more wife, and he's by himself. And then, of course, you can visit him as well. That's very good to hear that. And that's so important. This brings home to another situation of the family member through marriage. Yeah, we have this auntie who is now in a nursing home. He came to know, I think the Lord very late in life, has very few friends, just friends, and so on, and so left only with family members, right? Family members, and talking about having suicidal thoughts and so on. Yeah. So my parents-in-law, even at their 80 years old and so on, still caring for a younger sister in a nursing home. And it's so difficult for an older couple, 80 plus, my parents-in-law, having to take care of a 70 plus a sister who is having some issues mentally. And of course, I don't hear of any church friends visiting her. That's because there were no building of friendship. Even when she started to join the church, there was still no this connection that you mentioned about. And sometimes that's not so helpful. So I think for us in the church, and what rightly mentioned, the building of strong friendship and bonds is so important that we need one another. We never know, right? One day we may need somebody to us, or we may be the one visiting somebody in need. Yeah,
Yes.
in older age.
That's
So
right.
friends
That's right.
are important, yeah. Thank you for the story. That very inspiring. Yeah, encouraging to have friends, church friends, still visiting that elderly man. I'm about 90 years old.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so do you have anything to say about in closing remarks before we end the session? It's now 10 o'clock. Dr. Eddie?
No, I think
session,
yeah.
and give us a glimpse of what to expect next, part 2.
Yeah, we'll be talking about a lot of other things, like for example, how to become their safe space for the elderly. It's so important for us. And then we'll talk about even about elderly and falls. What are the measures that we can take? Household measures, safety measures. To prevent falls. We also going to talk about elder abuse. It's a very big subject actually. Elder abuse. So we're going to get into we as Christians we should to be very aware of this issue and how we can be an advocate to to combat elder abuse. There's a lot of it going on, and some are not even reported because the elderly are so helpless, right? And they are fearful. Then we are going to talk about caregiver burnout. It's not easy, right? There are to be a caregiver for an extended period of time. It's going to take its toll, and therefore, somehow or other we need respite care. We need people to come and help out once in a while, give you a break. And this is extremely important. Otherwise, the caregiver will be knocked out. Then we will talk about the factors of life expectancy. What are the factors that linked to life expectancy? And then we talk about the blue zone, the people, in certain regions of the world where people lived up to a ripe old age, and what are some of the dimensions of wellness that they discovered about these people. Then the importance of social network. We talk about, it's so important, like what you said, we have to build, we need one another, we are made for community, and we need this social network. And then we need exercise. Exercise, we can talk about some of the research findings on exercise. And spiritual wellness. It is so important at this point, while we are reflecting, what's the meaning, what's life all about? Where am I going after this? Is there a hope? If we have hope, then it can, we feel secure. We know that, like today, if I go into, I step into eternity, oh, hallelujah. I mean, I know I've got a better home there, so I'm not fearful, you see. So we have to talk about this dimension of spiritual wellness and so on and so forth. Yeah. So these are some of the things we'll cover. I hope we have time to cover though. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thanks so much for giving us, thank you for tonight's session. It's so helpful to give us an awareness for the things concerning the elderly, yeah, and
Okay.
For those people who are in the senior citizens. I mean, one of the revelations for me is that old age begins at 60 years old. Wow. Yes, some of us here, maybe for the first time you're hearing that, welcome to the club. And for those of us who are caregivers, I trust that we have also learned some things there along the way. We look forward to your other sessions that we may be better equipped also to be good caregivers, patient caregivers to the elderly. Yeah. And by the way, Dr. Eddie, that not only the caregivers are in this webinar and also some senior citizens as well. We have also actually college students also in here, young adults. Yeah. And as young as that, they are joining and preparing themselves, not for old age, but preparing themselves as caregivers first and to help in one way. So it's very good learning for all of us. So really great to have you with us. And for all the participants, really appreciate your time here. Trust that the time you have invested will be a very worthwhile investment, not only for tonight, but for the length of days that God has will give to us, that we may be good caregivers, patient caregivers to people. Yeah, and if we are in the elderly zone, thank God for the encouragement that Dr. Eddie gave us, that there is still life to be lived for whatever length of days, years that God gives to us. Yeah, so thank you so much for coming tonight, and we look forward to the next session, part 2, next Friday, same time, 8. Yeah, and you can still invite your friends to join for that session, part 2, even though they missed part 1, because these sessions will be is recorded, and so if they even miss part 1, they can later on view it through our website. Yeah, we'll upload there.